Prior to November 12th of 2011, I lived very bad. I run around drinking beer, just kind of did my own thing, kind of, well, you know, I've got a good enough relationship with God. You know, I'll be fine, I'll be okay. But in November of 2011, I had a very, very bad four-wheeler wreck. Anyway, flipped my four-wheeler. My face hit a rock as big as a truck. My four-wheeler come up my back, crushed the back of my head. I had my uncle and a couple of guys with me, but they were way behind me. As I sat there in the ditch, I never lost consciousness or nothing, but I sat there in the ditch and I reached over to grab my four-wheeler to turn it back over and knew something was wrong with my shoulder. You know, and blood was just pouring everywhere, and I couldn't figure out where. And then a game warden showed up, and he was trying to fix me up the best he could, but he was a young guy and he was just as scared as I was. And about that time the group got there, and this is the part that really makes me wonder. A big black car pulled up, a Crown Victoria. I'll never forget it. And a woman gets out on the driver's side, and she is dressed in her Sunday best, so to speak. And the trunk pops, and she grabs a black bag, and she comes around the car, and all I can remember her saying is, "Get out and hold pressure points." And then I'm assuming it was her husband that got out, that was dressed in a suit and tie. And she comes up to me, and she's grabbing, and she's looking, you know, just touching me everywhere, and she finally gets my wallet, and she's asking me all these questions. Who are you? Where are you from? And I just look at her and I say, "Who are you?" And I'm not going to mention her name, but she says, "I'm so-and-so and I'm a doctor from Ada, Oklahoma. And I'm coming down here with my family to take Christmas pictures." So she fixes me up as best she could, and she looks me right in the eye and she says, "You have 3 minutes, or I'm going to call in a life flight." And I said, "Life flight?" You know, my shoulder's messed up and my head's busted open. And I remember her grabbing me on the side of the face, and she says, "Honey, you are way worse off than you think you are. You have 3 minutes." Anyway, make a long story short, Uncle shows up, they shove me in the truck, and on the way to Tallahassee we go. Doctor gets me and takes me back there, and I really wasn't worried until he looked at me and he says, "We've got to get you on a life flight now." So they put me on a life flight, and I go up there, and I stay 9 days. And in 9 days, you have a lot of time to think when you're just laying there. And I thought about a lot of things, and when I got out, I just continued to go back to everything that I was doing. Knew God had a hand in me, you know, in I guess keeping me alive. But just didn't sink in. Just didn't sink in, and I just continued to go on about my ways. To me, looking back now, God revealed himself that day. But at the time, I didn't see it. So I went on with life, still, you know, running around, partying, drinking, and all that stuff. I met a woman, and she pretty much begged me to come to church. We went to a couple of churches together, just didn't find one, you know, that was right. And still wasn't feeling it, still wasn't feeling the whole religious thing or giving myself to God, so to speak. Until on September 1st of 2013, I did something I did something horribly wrong. Some of you may know what I did, and I was fighting with the woman that I love and that I'm planning on being with forever. And it was the wrong thing to do. And I left, and I went to jail. I went to jail for driving under the influence of alcohol. And as I sat there in the jail, all I could think about is everything that I'd done wrong in the past. And I told myself from that point, I said, I'm not gonna drink anymore. That was my problem. It wasn't everybody else's problem like I thought, but I told myself right then. Whether I believed myself right then or not, I don't know. But when I got out of jail, I went back to the house, of course, to get my things and to try to apologize as much as I could. And it didn't work. So I've quit drinking. I have not touched a drop since September 1st. I was laying in bed one night and I said, as I was praying, after I got through praying, I honestly felt like that God said to me, look, I gave you your chance when you had your full arrest. I gave you your chance, and I showed you that I'm here, and I didn't take it. So I felt like after September 1st, after the bad thing that I did with the person that was closest to me, I felt like he didn't give me a chance anymore. He just said, hey, we tried it your way, now we're going to try it my way. It just grabbed a hold of me, and it's the best feeling in the world to know that my life actually has a direction instead of just a walkabout, so to speak. And I don't understand a lot of things about Christ and the Bible and religion and stuff like that, but I'm learning. I'm really learning very quickly, I think. It's a whole new world has opened up, and I can't be more thankful. My name is Jeremy Downs, and this is my story.